It's no secret that the TF2 economy has changed over time. Over the years, we've gone from 2 ref keys to 50 ref keys. We've seen the fall of websites like TF2 Outpost and the rise of Backpack.tf and Marketplace.tf. We've seen hundreds of unique hats, skins, and unusuals be added with each and every update. But there's also been another change that has profoundly impacted the economy over the years, a change that is perhaps not quite as obvious as keys skyrocketing in price. And that change is the introduction and proliferation of trading bots. You know, the bots you see all over the Backpack.tf classifieds, claiming they have 24/7 uptime and lightning fast auto accept. Over the years, the number of these automated trade bots have exploded, a result that can be largely attributed to Backpack.tf's addition of buy orders in 2015 and the rise of Bot.tf, a well-designed monthly bot ownership service that allows anyone to obtain a trade bot without any programming experience necessary. In many ways, the rise of automation within the TF2 economy shouldn't be surprising. Just like in the real world, TF2 players value speed and convenience, and automated bots help fill that need in the same way that Amazon does in the real world. However, many would argue that Amazon has had a net negative impact on society. Due to their incredible scale and efficiency, existing institutions have suffered, and many small businesses have vanished. This of course begs the question: within the scope of the TF2 economy, is automation good or bad? Let's find out. When people talk about trade bots and low-tier items, I think it is important to realize that they are almost always talking about a specific type of item, what I like to call a competitive item. Competitive items are low-tier items that are easy to quickly sell for pure and have a well-defined price on Backpack.tf. Since these items are safe investments, lots of bots buy and sell them, and the typical profit margin is going to be less than refined. Examples of competitive items include regular taunts, great cosmetics, and keys. In the case of competitive items, I think it's clear that automation is extremely helpful. These items are typically very cheap, and most people don't want to be hassled having to wait for people to respond to a trade with often inconsequential value. Thus, bots here fill exactly the role that they should, making trading more convenient. With bots around, all someone has to do is find the cheapest bot seller of an item, and a few clicks later, they've got that item that they need. In many cases, bots also make the true value of these items more transparent, as players can look to bots to get a reasonable depiction of what an item is valued at if the Backpack.tf price seems inaccurate. For players uninterested in making profit, this is really all there is to the bot argument. Bots, at least within the low-tier market, are good simply because they make trading faster, easier, and more convenient. However, more dedicated traders might disagree. While these traders do of course benefit from quick trades and clearer prices all the time, they would argue that the cons of bots in the low-tier market far outweigh the pros. They would argue that low-tier traders can't compete with bots because bots constantly overcut and undercut them, weaning away any profit that could be made. This might surprise you, but I actually disagree with this sentiment. While I do agree that profiting in low-tier trading is harder than it used to be, I'd argue that this is not actually the fault of trade bots. Instead, I'd argue it is the fault of the absurd key-to-refined ratio and Valve's blatant inability to do anything about it. You see, even if bots didn't exist at all, profit margins on competitive items would still be low, driven down by regular traders instead of bots. While it's possible that these margins would be slightly higher and potentially more in flux than they would be with bots, they would still be tiny, as there simply can't be a large profit to be made on common, easy-to-sell items. Now remember that keys are worth 50 refined. In this world, if you wanted to buy and sell competitive items and you made a profit of say 1 ref per trade, a profit margin that is, to be clear, already on the high side, you would have to do this more than 50 times to even make a key. Would people be incentivized to do this? I don't think so. If you look at it this way, I think it becomes clear that the impact of bots is almost trivial compared to the impact of the key-to-refined ratio on making low-tier trading difficult. In this sense, bots are simply a proxy for the real problem of the key-to-refined ratio. With this in mind, I ultimately think that within the context of low-tier trading, bots are more beneficial than harmful. Profiting from competitive items was already difficult, so the existence of bots simply makes it easier for others to move these items around. Further, I think it is important to realize that not all low-tier items are competitive items. Many items, such as skins and spells, have less well-defined prices, and few bots buy and sell them, so there are still ample opportunities for traders to profit in the low-tier market. Of course, that being said, I still don't think that traders are without fault for complaining about bots on the whole, particularly when it comes to higher value items like unusuals. When trade bots first started to take off, it took a while for them to reach the higher tier unusual market. Although unusuals of course boasted higher profit margins, unusual bots were more difficult to program, and bot owners had to be well versed in the unusual market to make any profit at all. But as time progressed and services like Backpack.tf Automatic and Bot.tf made selling unusuals just as easy as regular items, we started seeing unusual bots in increasing numbers buying all kinds of unusuals. Because profit margins on unusuals are typically a key or more, regular traders were fortunately still able to compete with the influx of bots. However, they were often forced into buying unusuals for more than they would have previously, and selling them for slightly less as well, making it particularly harder for those getting into unusual trading to find quick sells with good profit margins. While this might sound bad for unusual buyers, I'll point out it wasn't all negative. With more competition on the classifieds, the pure price of all unusuals across the board was driven up, keeping the market reasonably stable. Once more, even if someone bought an unusual for more than they would have liked, they had a safety net that older traders didn't have. They could always sell it back to a bot at a minimal loss, making trading mistakes much less punishing. In many ways, one could argue that unusual bots greatly improved the economy after their inception, creating a fairly healthy unusual market. Unfortunately, however, as the economy has evolved over the years, this healthy unusual market has started to fade away. In my opinion, the chief cause of this shift is something rather subtle: the uneven distribution of unusual buy orders. You see, because unusuals rarely sell for pure, an unusual's highest buy order is always going to be less than its Backpack.tf price, and it typically represents the worst case quick sell price of the unusual. Back when bots first entered the unusual market, most hats had buy orders for around 60 to 80% of their Backpack.tf price. In practice, this made trading unusual for unusual fairly straightforward. Because all unusuals could be sold for roughly similar pure prices, there was seldom a large incentive for someone to reject an offer on the basis of one hat's buy orders being vastly higher than another's. Recently, however, this has become less of the case. As original Halloween hats and mists have become rarer and more desirable, bots have started heavily competing with each other on these hats, driving up buy orders to ridiculous extremes. At the same time, as the unlocked keyless crates have flooded the market with original first, second, and third gen unusuals, bots have stopped competing on these unusuals like they once did. Once more, when the crate depression arrived in July 2019, and bots were forced to turn off their buy orders to avoid buying glitched items, many bots never reinstated buy orders on affected hats like third gen unusuals, even after the market calmed down. As you may be able to put together, these uneven extremes in buy orders have made unusual trading much more difficult. To put it into perspective, imagine me and a trading partner each have a 40 key unusual in today's market. If my unusual has no competition on buy orders and has a highest buy order of 17 keys, and my trading partner's unusual has buy orders for 32 keys, it is always in my partner's best interest to reject any offer that I make, holding on to an item that at worst gets them far more pure. In many cases, this makes trading unusual for unusual impossible. People with quote-unquote good unusuals will sit on trade servers rejecting offer after offer due to low buy orders, and people with quote-unquote bad unusuals will struggle to even get reasonable offers considered. Ironically, it appears that when bots disproportionately compete on a small subset of unusuals, unusuals become much, much harder to move, a paradoxical result of an invention supposed to make trading faster and easier. Everything that I've talked about so far has had one thing in common. It is largely something we have no control over. It's sad, but it's true. People desire speed and convenience, so the emergence of trade bots seems almost inevitable. Markets are always in flux, so an uneven distribution of unusual buy orders isn't super surprising. Maybe sometime in the future buy orders will even out again, but it's hard to say when or if that will ever happen. What I can say for sure, however, is that there is one important topic that we still need to talk about that can be addressed to improve the way we interact with bots in the economy. That topic is overcutting scripts. For those who may not know, overcutting scripts are programs that users can write that allow their bot to essentially see the other sellers on the classifieds, allowing them to automatically readjust their price anytime someone beats them. Now, in general, I don't mind that bots have the advantage of accepting trades instantly, since to have a good bot, the bot owner has to put in just as much, if not more time than a legitimate trader would into finding good items to buy. I mean, I've tried setting up a bot.tf bot on multiple occasions, and trust me, it takes a soul-crushing amount of time to constantly create buy orders and then relist them when others beat your prices. The problem I have with overcutting scripts, however, is that they blatantly invalidate the work that others do to upkeep their bots or create unautomated listings, particularly in the case of unusuals where bots and regular traders should be able to peacefully coexist. To give an example, if you are an unusual trader, you can spend an entire afternoon creating new buy orders to almost no effect. The next morning you can wake up and 75% of your listings have been automatically beaten or matched by multiple trading bots with overcutting scripts. In many ways, they completely invalidate what should be a legitimate trading strategy. Further, the incentives are backwards too. If I had to estimate, there are probably less than 50 people with overcutting scripts on backpack.tf, all of whom are incredibly rich, with backpacks worth multiple thousands of dollars. Between all of them, one of them probably has a buy order on 90% of all competitive low tier items and unusuals in the game, essentially allowing a tiny fraction of rich traders to completely monopolize backpack.tf's buy orders. To add salt to the wound, backpack.tf is very pro scripts, and the rules reflect it. For example, if an overcutting script has a bug and accidentally lists a buy order for way higher than it should have, and you sell to that bot, you can be banned, not the bot owner. I'm not even kidding here. Last year, a well-known trader by the name of DX was banned for selling both Hellfire Metal Slugs to a buyer after realizing that their overcutting script would beat whatever high buy order they created. While admit the practice of manipulating buy orders is sketchy, people with bots do have a responsibility to make sure that their scripts are bug-free and only buy and sell items for prices that the owner is willing to buy and sell them for. When I had a bot, I accidentally listed an item for 17 ref instead of 17 keys, and someone bought it from me. It sucked, but it was my fault and there is no reason the other person should be banned. What I ask of backpack.tf is to simply reconsider their rules regarding overcutting scripts. I, and many others, consider them to be largely unfair, and I wish that the classifieds would once again reward hard work, instead of helping the 24 or so already rich traders with the capacity to invest in overcutting scripts on a massive scale. I personally believe an outright ban would be the most beneficial, but I am open to other ideas that allow overcutting scripts to be scaled back more democratically. Anyway, that is just gonna about do it for the video. This video was extremely interesting for me to make, so I really hope that you guys enjoyed it and maybe had your views on bots challenged a little bit. If this video made you change your mind or you simply want to share your perspective about automation in the TF2 economy, I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below. Thanks to Squirrely for inspiring this video with his video last week, and thanks for watching.